Hey, this is John from Alloy 211. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the cheapest 8mm Mauser ammunition that you will find on AmmoSeek.com. At 29.8 cents around, the Fedarms 8mm Mauser, 197.5 grain, steel cord, steel case, new production with a caveat ammunition is not only the cheapest 8mm Mauser that you'll see on AmmoSeek.com, it's the cheapest 8mm Mauser that I've come across on the internet. So, and especially for what is new production. Although we'll get to that in a minute. So let's go ahead and take a look at the box. Here on this side of the box we have Fedarms, 20 cartridges, full metal jacket. We've got the weights, caliber, bullet type. This side of the box, more Fedarms. We have the bullet mass, muzzle velocity. Party, I'm not sure what that means. That says store up to 10/22. I mean, I guess that's an expiration date. I'm not sure. On this side we have some warnings in Cyrillic and some other stuff here. Then we have the velocities at distance, which I always like that. That's always nice when you have that on a box of ammunition. Here we have some more typical warnings and then some more warnings. And made in Russia. This ammunition is made in Russia. Now I'm going to get to that. Let's go ahead and take it out of the box before I do. But I'm going to get to that new production with a caveat in a moment, and I'm actually going to go ahead and just read. Here we go. Watch this. I'm gonna just dump this all out probably. Oh, look at that. They just sat there. That's impressive. Now, as you can see, this cartridges actually have the caliber all stamped on the side of them, all fancy like that. If I can get it. There we go. There we go. Now, I'm actually going to go ahead and read verbatim from the Fedarms website of their description of this ammunition to explain why it is new production but with a caveat. Okay, this is from their website, from their description. The 7.92 by 57 8mm Mauser steel cased ammunition has been made from excess military stock using steel casings with polymer or lacquer coating to ensure proper functionality. These can be received from multiple lots and can come with copper versions of the bimetal jacketed bullets, while some have crupo-nickel bimetal jacketed bullets. Weight sorted projectiles with precision drop powder results in a round with near match grade accuracy. Primers have been replaced with new production Berdan primers. While in our testing these have tested to be non-corrosive, we recommend that you treat this ammunition as corrosive. So now, as you can see, it is new production, but it's been produced using military excess components. So it is new production, but then also there's a possibility that it's corrosive, but it does seem to, what I was most concerned about actually was proper ignition. If you watch my video on the Ethiopian surplus ammunition, it had terrible ignition. And I'll kind of get to that in a minute too. So one of the things I wanted to make sure of when I bought this ammunition was that it had positive ignition on multiple rounds. And since I couldn't get to the range, I went ahead and pulled a bullet. Here. Just to see if it had positive ignition, and there's the powder out of it, which it did. It had superb ignition. When I put it in my K98K, chambered it, no powder, no bullet, just the primer. It was loud. I mean, it's like a loud cap. If you've never fired a primer, they're like a loud cap. So very positive, very good ignition. So I was happy with that. I haven't had a chance to actually get out to shoot them to see how accurate they are, but they do function and feed into my K98K without a problem. But then that kind of led me to wonder, well, I wonder what that Ethiopian stuff sounds like if you pull a bullet and just strike the primer. So I went ahead and pulled a bullet from the Ethiopian surplus that I have. There's the Ethiopian powder, which if you look both between this new production Fedarms, which is here, and the Ethiopian powder, they both use a flake powder that's very similar. So, but the one interesting thing, when I pulled the Egyptian bullet and I fired just the Ethiopian, sorry, not Egyptian, but the Ethiopian bullet, and fired just the primer, instead of making a nice loud crack, pop sort of sound, it just sounded like poof. And so I pulled a couple more of the Ethiopian 8mm, and the ones that didn't just go poof, Didn't make any noise at all. So that explains our poor ignition with that ammunition. But then that kind of made me curious about some of the other surplus ammunition I had. So I went ahead and pulled a Serbian M75 8mm, which is very good ammunition. I like it. It's good surplus. But it made me wonder with that, and also it uses a flake powder similar to the other powders used in the other 8mm Mauser rounds that we have in front of us. It also had very positive ignition, just like the new production or semi-new production Fedarms ammunition. And then that kind of made me curious because I had some just new production PPU. So I went ahead and pulled a bullet from that. I don't have the powder from that. But it just made me curious because these were made in the same factory, or should have been. So it made me wonder what the differences might be between all four of these rounds. What I found really interesting, the Fedarms and the Ethiopian round, both of the projectiles weighed 12.8 and just kind of bumping over to 12.9 grams, which is about exactly what 198 grains should be, which is what this is listed as, 198 grains, and this is listed as 197.5 grains. So that's pretty close to 198. Close enough that they would just about measure the same. But what I found interesting was this new production PPU that I have is also listed at 198 grains. And I believe this M75 is 196 grains. But when I weighed them on the scale, they actually were more like 12.9 or 13 grams rather than the 12.8 or less, because this should really be less than 12 point. I think it's less than 12.8. So I was really surprised to find out not only does it seem the new production PPU ammunition I have, at least, uses the same bullet as the M75, but also that their weights aren't quite maybe the 100, maybe aren't quite what they're said to be. So I would have to pull a lot more bullets to check and see if that's just a variation or if that's a standard thing. But it was just an interesting observation, I thought. And like I said, the Fedarms does have a steel cord bullet, as you can see with our little magnet. Definitely pulls it. It'll hold our magnet. So steel cord bimetal projectile. And our Fedarms, the Ethiopian ammunition, also has a bimetal jacket, so attracts a magnet. But neither the M75 nor obviously the new production PPU holds a magnet. So, you know, if you have a range that does not allow steel cord projectiles or projectiles that will attract a magnet, then the Fedarms won't work for you. But everybody else, it'll work great for, and it's really cheap to shoot. Now, here's something else I observed that I found really interesting about firing these rounds without any powder in them. And that was, it's going to be kind of hard to see. I'll try to zoom it in and get a light in the right spot. Okay, there you go. This is the fired, see if I can get the head stamp. Oh no, because it definitely doesn't want to come to focus. There we go. This is the fired M75, or the primer fired M75. And it left, if I can get it to focus, there we go, kind of, sort of. Okay, it left this strange kind of orange residue on the inside of the shell casing. And after I fired it, I was like, well, I am pretty sure that that was not on the inside of the shell casing before I fired it. So I went ahead and pulled another of the M75 rounds. Now, if I can find it here, apparently I set it down somewhere. Now I can't find it. But I fired another one of those. Oh, here it is right in front of me. I pulled another one of the M75 rounds. Didn't fire the primer. And if we take a look inside that shell casing, none of that strange orange oxide. And I know that the M75 ammunition is corrosive. You definitely need to clean your gun after you shot it. So that made me think, well, what about that Ethiopian ammunition? Well, the one primer that did go off in its poof, or, well, actually there are two, but that poofed on me. Neither one of those left that orange sort of oxide on it. And the new production PPU no orange oxide. But I did find it kind of interesting. On the possibly corrosive Fedarms, we do have a coating of what appears to be a orange oxide that is not present on the one that I pulled that didn't have the primer fired. Now, I don't know if this means that they are corrosive or they aren't corrosive, but if I had a known ammunition here that I know is corrosive and one here that is unknown, but they left kind of a similar sort of dust inside the casing, I would just treat it as mildly corrosive. Possibility. They say on their website to treat it as corrosive. So, but overall, I had very positive ignition from the Fedarms 8mm Mauser. It seems to have a good weight in powder. I mean, the same. I did not actually measure the weights in powder, but that's just because when I pulled each one of these bullets, a small amount of powder did come back out of my bullet puller, so I didn't think that'd be really an accurate or fair comparison because I'm not going to be measuring all the powder. So, but just visually, they all look to be about the same amounts of powder, same type of powder. So, functionally, I don't know for sure until we actually get to the range, but I can't see any reason why they wouldn't function well. And after we get a chance to go out and shoot them, I'll go ahead and do another video and let you know if they're accurate and worth the money. At this point, even if they weren't accurate, even if they only hit a 5-inch circle at 100 yards at 29.8 sets around, that's really cheap. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you like this video and you watch some other ones, you enjoy those too, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. And if you enjoyed just this video, go ahead and give it a like. Thanks and have a great day.